Right, hello. Hopefully hopefully you can all see and hear me. Right, so what I thought I'd do with this stream is do a stream where if you're a smaller channel and you make videos and you wanted advice or you're thinking about making the videos, maybe ask me, because it's been quite positive recently. All the people who wish me well with, like the 86,000 subscribers or whatever it was, and also all the people, giving shout outs and how happy they were to get shout outs, and the amount of people that said, "Oh, go sub to those channels." So, if you've got a smaller channel and you want to ask questions, please do, which might help, and I'll try and answer you the best I can. A while ago, I used to try and post on the YouTube Reddits to give people advice, but then that always backfires because it's Reddit. And, I'm sure a lot of you know, Reddit as a platform ends up being basically... like somebody asks for advice, you give them a correct answer. That's too long and complicated. I don't want to do that. And then they basically downvote you. So, yes, I do. Opened it about 10 minutes ago. The last of the Abbott ales in the fridge I bought. Right, Ceiling Gang is cringe. What sort of videos do you make? But I would say, so good evening to everybody. The problem is I find a lot of forums end up like that, Strigen, just because even if you have people that are all well-meaning to begin with, I think what ends up happening on a lot of forums is people end up sort of gravitating to a few personalities, and it always turns into flame war. All right, bots? But yeah, the thing is, like I said, that, I'd like to help smaller channels get viewers, because the thing is, like I've said a lot with gas mask stuff, please, please, please don't just watch my videos for gas mask stuff. Watch a variety of channels, get different information from different people. Yeah, you're early for once, bots, although I did announce this one, didn't I? I've not checked Discord in a few hours, so if people have messaged me, then I haven't answered, but, But yeah, I'd kind of like to just do a stream trying to give advice to smaller channels, because I've actually got to the stage now on YouTube, obviously, where I've got enough subs that I'm actually kind of considered important on here, which is a weird feeling. So there might be some CBRN, but I've never used editing on my phone other than just clipping the very front and very end of a video. I use Vegas Movie Studio 16 Platinum Steam Edition for editing on PC at the moment, because I got that in the sale. And for PC, I've used various versions of Sony Vegas and then just Vegas when it wasn't owned by Sony anymore. And that's pretty good. It has some flaws with it, but the thing is, cause I would like people, if they watch my videos and they find certain subjects interesting, to not just watch my videos on it, because obviously I have my opinions and all stuff like that. So here's the thing. Like I was saying in the shout out video earlier, when I do gas mask videos, they're not like the most researched videos or whatever. I do a basic bit of research on a mask, give my opinions of it. It's all very straightforward, not scripted. Some people, like Duke Nougat, do the really good researched videos, like on American masks. So if you want a well-researched video, watch his. But I think you should just watch a variety of channels, get different opinions, and then come to your own conclusion on things. I think that's a better way of doing it. It's a bit like politics. Don't get lumped into, far right or far left politics. Read up a lot of different political things and come to your own political stances, and you'll probably find then you end up being pretty boring middle of the road like I am, because far left and far right ideologies are both bad. Ask good, Gretchen. Hope you're doing all right. I'm good, Gretchen. Thank you. I've never done animation. Ceiling Gang is cringe, so I can't help you there. But if you enjoy doing animation, do animation. For the people who were asking earlier about uploading, I would say try and upload regularly. So what I mean is, if you're uploading just one video a month, try and do it on the same day every month. Say like the first of a month. If it's every week, say do it on a Monday or whatever. If it's every day, stick to every day. But I don't think with YouTube it helps if you do every day and then you do like every few days, and then if your thing keeps changing. I'm only uploading every day again at the moment with shorter videos, just because I can't do anything while Corona's going on. So I'm sort of stuck at home, and because I'm not volunteering, I'm not at work, I'm like, well, I need to just do YouTube videos to stay sane. In what degree, Stuart? Sorry, I've probably missed your point there, but I don't even know who that is. I'm afraid anti-gacha owl mapping. If you're asking me about YouTube celebrities, I'm afraid there's not very many I follow. I think Ashens is probably the biggest channel I'm subscribed to, and I just like Ashens because he just has a very basic setup of he's in front of an old sofa and he reviews Tap or weird old books, you know. That's why I like Ashen stuff. Because I think the problem with a lot of channels is when they get too big, the production value gets really good. And in some ways that's good, but in some ways it doesn't feel like a small old YouTube channel anymore. Ashen's is quite a big channel though, isn't he? 11HHH30. I'm sure lots of people internationally have seen Ashen's. But Ashen's is just good because it's a very simple, straightforward video, and I like Ashen's because you can just watch something and enjoy it, you know. It's just a very deadpan looking at something and talking about it, you know. G6395 says, my MD3 arrived earlier. Sometimes there's a bunch of needle movement on the 0 to 3 scale, but sometimes it's fine. Have you watched my video on doing the initial setup of it? But I think it is probably a case of moisture in the chamber. So put some fresh silica gel in it, leave it on for a couple of hours, and then it will probably have all completely dried up inside, and you'll get very, very little needle movement. The problem with MD3s and any kind of ionization chamber unit, if it's open air, the more moisture that gets inside the chamber, just due to, you know, like not having silica gel or whatever in there, the more it will change the conductivity and mess with the results. Oh, some bigger channels I'm subscribed to. Oh, YouTube says, your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try and reconnect you. Can everybody still see me? Let me see who I'm subscribed to in big numbers. I don't know if I can set it by most things. A few like creepypasta channels, just for when I want to listen to stuff and I'm not doing much. Apparently I have about 1,000 subscriptions. Adam Keladin or Cheladin, he's a very good channel. He's a Czech knife thrower. Really nice bloke. I'm trying to just look for the bigger channels on here at the moment. BigClive.com, because he does what's it, like electronics videos. Blue Cross, but that's only because I do charity volunteering for the Blue Cross. So I just find it interesting watching videos they put on their YouTube now and again. Again, more creepypasta ones. Some weird just channels that do interesting content. A few gun channels. Fat Pie, you know, like David Firth and all those sort of weird animations. There's probably quite a few on here I could actually unsubscribe from, so I don't think they've done videos in ages, or they never do videos on the subject they used to do them on. Skillagrin, or however his name's pronounced, and a few other sword channels like his, you know, sword and axe sort of channels, medieval weapon channels. But yeah, that's mostly it. Like I said, I gave a shout out to smaller channels, but with bigger channels, it's mostly just Ashens and then a load of just knives and guns sort of channels. What, a flashbang costs $780 US, some CBRN, or do you mean the flashbang would break the rest of your gear? I've done some like that, Istvan, but at the moment I suppose we're going to have to wait for a lot of the coronavirus stuff to calm down before you can reliably get stuff shipped from China. Because there's some stuff from China I ordered in about January, February, that now and again gets an update on the tracking info. So it is moving, it's just not moving at a good speed. That's good, Henry. What did you get? I mean, I can probably look on my Teespring and see. I know you've probably said to me, let me see if the analytics on Teespring are correct. The most recently purchased things were S10 hoodie, S10 t-shirt. Oh, actually, no, that's sorting it by units. I don't know if I can see it by day. But, yeah, GP5 pillows, GP5 hoodies, GP5 mugs, S10 t-shirt, S10 hoodie, and I think a Radiac shirt got ordered as well, didn't it, recently? If you've got a question, just ask it. Don't keep saying, can I ask a question? I'd keep it as an antique, some CBRN then, rather than putting a bug-out kit. All right, Ron, how are you? Yeah, this one was surprisingly good. Obviously, the pewter mask is absolute... Oh, it just fell off there. That sounded heavy. The pewter mask is absolute crap, but this one's good. So some Chinese masks are right, some are crap. It really depends on what they are. But I want to find out what just landed on the floor there with a big bang. Oh, it was a decimeter charger. It was this thing, hence why it was so heavy and made such a loud clunk. I wouldn't call this stuff crap, Steve would, but yeah, there's too much of it behind me, hence why it falls off now and again. No, Chris, because a few of them are obsolete battery types. I did look it up. Cheers, Ivan. Like I was saying, the thing is with some of those Geigers is it's either you can't get the batteries at all, or you can get the batteries and they cost such a stupidly large amount to do. I remember you saying, I just can never always remember what it was on what date from what person, but I would say Mini Dawn Scout. I've not watched your videos, but if you're doing gaming videos, it might be a good idea to play games not many people play. Because obviously the problem is big gaming channels are all going to be playing, you know, like the latest Call of Duties or whatever. So I'd say if you're a smaller channel, the best thing to probably do is play games that are a bit more obscure and weird, because there's probably less people doing videos on them, then people are more likely to find your channel. You know, that would be my advice on that. Chris from HR says, do you keep any potassium iodine around? We're not far from Sellafield N nuclear power plant, but not close enough to be issued any. I don't. You can buy it online. The problem is with iodine, the only type of stable iodine, the only type of stuff it protects you from is iodine 131 going to your thyroid. So basically, you need to know right away to take it as something happens, because if you find out a few days later there's been a radiation leak and you take it, it's already too late. So basically, with the iodine thing, I don't think there's much use for it personally unless you would know straight away that there's a problem. Because unless you have all like the radiological monitoring equipment, you know, what will end up happening potentially is there might be a leak. You could be exposed, and then by the time you think to take it, it's too late at that point, because there's already, you know, iodine 131 that's gone to your thyroid. Battery eliminator. Let me look that up. I assume that's not like the Terminator. Yeah, I've got something like that. I've got a bolt. I've got a bench DC transformer that lets you do anything from 0 to 62 volts ish roughly on it. But the issue is, obviously, you'd have to buy several of those and be able to crop clip them all up if you have one of those weird old Geigers where it uses like a couple of one type of battery on one connection, then different voltages on different connections, you know. Every time somebody says about Frank, I think, Alex, I would have probably focused my channel on one more type of video. So I don't know whether it would have been gas masks or whatever, but I think I'd have definitely focused on one more ability. Obviously, there would have been certain things where, you know, when you know about trolls sort of that come about later on, I wouldn't have had anything to do with them to begin with, you know. You wouldn't have communicated them from the get-go. You'd have blocked them as soon as they turned up and nothing would have come with it. But I think that would mostly be it, Alex. I think if I started my channel from the get-go, it would have been completely to focus on doing one kind of video. Because I've noticed when I do a lot of a similar themed video in a row, it generally gets more people interested, or it works better on the algorithm than, you know, doing various videos. But personally, I kind of like doing various videos because I will get bored if I just have to talk about different gas masks every, you know, day or few days in a row. Yeah, the Bereg's very good for that, Chris, because it will just literally tell you if you're at background radiation or higher than background, which is really all you need in a Geiger if you want it to alert you to something. You know, the Bereg is certainly not a good choice if you want to know a very, you know, statistic sort of laboratory amount of what the contamination is. But the Bereg, you know, just because it's color-coded, will tell you, is it background, is it above background, or is it bad, which is fine for most people. They look cool, Yonan, but I've never ever tried one. I've never used them, some CBRN. The problem is with like a lot of modern military gear, you never normally get your hands on it as a civilian, at least not in the UK. That's interesting, Chris. I know you can get ones where you can get certain batteries and they give you a different voltage. So you could put, like you said, a 9-volt in or a couple of AA's, and then it works out as another voltage. But the thing is with a lot of those old Geigers is they're cool, but I wouldn't want to spend too much trying to get them to run. Because when I got the one running the other day that came in that satchel, I'll do a video on it at some point, the Pentax or Penax sort of camera-made Geiger counter, I got it running eventually, but it wasn't just a case of, fixing the battery compartment. There ended up being more problems, with it. And until you had power going to it, you don't even realise the other problems are there. I don't Peacemaker, but I think a few people who come on regularly do. Well, UFC MMA, what I would actually say is rather than like gas mask, NBC suit and all that, I'd say what they say about radiation. Time, distance, and is it exposure? But the idea is, the less time around it, the better. Distance, the further away you are, the better. And exposure, I guess, how much you're contaminated by it. So with all those things, those are the best three things because they're far more reliable than the piece of protective equipment, the further away you are from it and everything else. But obviously, yeah, a basic respirator and whatever would be a good idea as well. But if I see more for sale for reasonable prices, but weirdly, the Avon Escape Hood, there aren't many that do the same job as that, because the Avon Escape Hood's designed to be like an ABEC and particle one, like an NBC CBRN kind of rated escape hood. The issue is with a lot of other escape hoods, is they seem to be for like fires, where they're more like a rebreather scrubber unit, that has like a thing that works on a chemical reaction to get rid of carbon monoxide in the air. Yeah, well, Peacemaker, I'll give you a shout out then. For anybody interested in videos on coins and precious metals, check out Peacemaker's videos. I'm not, like I said, really into it, but there'll certainly be some people, I think, watching now who do like that stuff. Thankfully, Henry, I don't get migraines very often, but they're horrible when you get them. White Wolf, the same answer I always get when somebody says about an expensive mask. If I ever see one at a good price, yes. If it's really expensive, no. Just because I think of all the other better things I could do with the money. But, I know sometimes I'm not very responsible with what I buy, but, for the most part, if there was a gas mask that, would end up being like a couple of weeks to a month's rent somewhere, like for buying it, I'd kind of go, that's a bit much. No, never played Rust. It's a survival game, isn't it? Yeah, so that might go up, Hiku. That's the only thing. Obviously, when things are on bids, not buy it now, as they can often go up quite expensive. Yeah, I'm sure it is a really good mask, but the thing is, like, from what I need in terms of masks, I've got more than enough. And while there are really good modern masks, how did I go, did I do it like that? No problem, Oscar. Glad you enjoyed the videos. How did you find me, through YouTube or through another way? Because I know sometimes I just get lucky where the YouTube algorithm actually seems to recommend my videos sort of for a while. So, people find them from not too obscure parts of YouTube. But I'm sure for a lot of people, they only find it on the really, really obscure part of YouTube. I've never been to the United States, unfortunately, some CBRN, but I like the US as a country. I like Americans. We don't always agree with everything America does, but in general, America's a good country. Yeah, a lot of people did find my channel in the last few months just because when Corona stuff happened, YouTube obviously decided they were going to promote lots of videos on like masks of all sorts of types, surgical masks, face masks, all that. So I think that's suddenly how people found my videos. I've never found anything that works amazingly, Alex, of course, because I think if anybody found that, they'd have way, way, way more subscribers. But I've just found really uploading as regularly as possible. So I used to do Wednesday, Fridays, and Sundays. Now I'm just doing every day at the moment because I'm stuck in not doing anything. I suppose it's more just engaging with comments and, making videos regularly and looking at your analytics to see what gets the most views, and then in theory making more videos like that. But while I know at the moment Corona videos and gas mask videos get the most views, sometimes I just don't want to do one. So, any particular Crossbow video, Chris from HR? Sorry if you said before and I've forgotten, but well, they're newer and in theory better UFC MMA. The FM53 has a lot more features. The C50 is an M50, but 40mm. I've just got an M50, and the M50 is a good mask, but I don't like the fact it uses its own filter. Cheers, Steve. What does white TPing mean, Oliver? I won't do that right now, Grunge Bob. I've got the merch hoodie on, look. I've been streaming quite a while, Pagan, but yeah, I'm streaming at the moment. Could be YouTubing, I don't know. That's kind of interesting. It's a shame a computer got binned, but I know some of my American subscribers have said they found some amazing stuff in dumpsters before. Like, I think it was Shot Zombie who found a CDV 715 and the CDV 700. And it might have been some other things as well, just in a dumpster, and they were like all in working condition. They'd just been thrown out despite the fact they were working. I'm afraid I don't have it, Pagan. As much as I'd love to know what the new Czech gas mask is, I don't have it. But what is it being made by AVEC or one of those companies? And is it a copy of somebody else's mask, or is it its own unique design? Oh, do you mean YouTube poop, Oliver? If you mean YouTube poop, I know what you mean. But I haven't seen any like YouTube poops in years. I remember all the old like CDI ones or whatever it was, you know, like the Zelda ones and the Mario ones. You know, I wonder what's for dinner and all those. But that's again weird, isn't it, Steve? I mean, I can understand why some stuff gets thrown away after it goes to certain criteria, but you think a lot of people just try and sell it on for a bit more money, just literally binning it. Avon CT12 Istvan. Is it behind me? Yes, it is. Normally, I always keep it handy at the moment because people ask about it. So this one. Basically, the S10 with better lenses and a better head harness, a bit more light and compact, but without the drinking tube. You could still probably make use of a torn flak jacket, couldn't you, even if it was just taking out some of the ballistic filler? That's annoying, Aldi. When I was quite young, we found a gun in the park and we had to report that to the police. I don't know if it was a real one or like an imitation one or whatever, but apparently it had, I think, been used in like some hold-ups or something. You know, like where somebody will go into a petrol station and wave a gun around. So they accidentally ordered extras, and rather than just reselling them, they bin them. It just does not make sense to me, that mentality, but I suppose that's when you've got companies with too much money and sense. It's like if you ever go to a company convention talking about how they need to save money, but they rent out a 5-star hotel and put on a buffet for all the managers that get shipped there all across the country. Ask me what, Henry, sorry. I mean, the Papas, as in, you know, the electric-powered airflow things for filters, they have their uses. It's just, for me, I'd never really find much use in them. Yeah, UFC MMA. I mean, the FM12 is just this of a drinking tube. That's like the only difference. I just prefer the CT12 because it's a bit lighter, and I'd only want it briefly on, not to use a hydration system. Well, because I actually clean my teeth properly, Pagan Flocky. I won't take that as an insult, but yeah, it's just more when I was young, I brushed my teeth properly. I think was probably the thing. Yeah, but I think the thing is with Papas is it depends what you want to use them for, because obviously they make it a lot cooler, and I don't mean cool like it's cool. I mean like, in terms of air temperature in the mask, don't they? Because it's basically flowing the air through at higher velocity. So they make breathing much easier and all stuff like that. But again, it depends what you need them for, because I think a regular person wouldn't have much use for a Papa. Yeah, I do know the difference myself as well, Pagan Flocky, between Czechs, Slovakians, Russians. I wouldn't know necessarily if I just randomly met somebody and they didn't say where they were from, but I do know the Czech Republic or Czechia, and Slovakia and all those other countries are not Russia, It's not, you look at somewhere like Central and Eastern Europe and you go, Russia. I mean, I know for older people it's probably because of the Cold War, and that was all kind of owned by the USSR, either through satellite states or just absorbed by the Soviets. Hello, Daniel. You're right. I haven't seen you on in a while. There were some funny videos I saw like that, though, Pagan Flocky in America, where it was at a point, where America was going on about invading Iran again or something. So some journalists were going around New York asking people to point to Iran on a map if they asked them first, do you think it's a good idea to invade Iran or whatever? And, they were like, yeah, we need to bomb Iran because they got the WMDs or whatever. So they were then saying, right, can you point to Iran on the map? And none of them knew where Iran was. I mean, maybe they edited out the footage, the Americans that actually could point to Iran. But I did think it was funny where some of them were pointing at like South America or, Western Europe for Iran. But that's right, Daniel. It's just I just remembered I hadn't seen you on for a while when you came on. I get quite a lot of people from Poland and the Czech Republic and stuff like that on the streams, just because I've done reviews of the gear. So if they come and look it up, they find the videos, Yeah, so some Americans then even pointed at the US when they thought that's where Iran was. Echo, I've never been to Croatia, sadly, or like Serbia or any of the Balkan countries. My parents went to Croatia just before Yugoslavia collapsed, and they said that was pretty interesting. A bit hairy, but pretty interesting, because it was when there was some football stuff on there or something, and it was like apparently there was loads of Croatian nationalism, in like the football stadiums and that, even though at the time it was still Yugoslavia. I don't know about a Russian variant of the M9 Oscar. Are you sure it might not be the Yugo M1? Because that will obviously have some maybe Russian-looking text on it. Although saying that, Yugoslavia doesn't use Cyrillic, does it? Or does it? Or like a lot of the ex-Yugo countries. I don't know then. I mean, one of the other collectors might be able to tell you if there was literally a Russian ripoff of the M9 at some point. But I don't know of one. I only know of like the US M9, was it even Norwegian or Swedish M51? I think it was Swedish, wasn't it? The M51. Finnish M61, the Yugoslav M1, and then I have a feeling there was some other countries, was there in like Egypt or Iraq that also had some M9 copies? Yeah, sure. Tell me about your friend's gas mask. I don't know anything about it, so go ahead. Yeah, I mean, if an M1 stopped 5.56, that would be a very lucky angle, Harris, because normally it should not be able to stop that round at all. But yeah, the standard Mark 6, not the Mark 6A, is atrocious when it comes to protection, just because, again, they went from steel pots to a flimsy bit of ballistic nylon. And it's not, right, Richard? It's not even like ballistic nylon's bad, it's just they didn't use enough in the helmet. So, you know, for ballistic nylon to be better than steel, you need quite a thick amount of it. But no, they didn't do that. Oh, hiccups. They just put like probably that much ballistic nylon in the helmet. That will do. Are you sure, AK-47? Are you sure it's a GP5 and not a similar looking mask that has a NATO thread? What filter have you tried to put in it? I don't really know, Joseph, because that's how I use eBay a lot. But... yeah, because if he's got a TF1 or one of those similar Chinese copies, again, that could be just where they've done it in 40mm NATO or DIN or whatever for the export markets. Oh, sounds interesting. Did it work, or was it just more like an art project? Sadly, not really some CBRN, because the issue is my nearest Airsoft site is Finmere, and Finmere, I think, only does, because I've been doxed, I don't really mind saying where all these places are now, and Finmere is quite a long drive from where I am, but that's still the closest site as far as I'm aware, and they normally only do Airsoft games on Sundays, and I work Sundays, so basically it ends up being a case of, you know, I'd have to drive quite far. You'd have to hope the weather's going to be all right on the day, and I'd have to book the day off as holiday. Yeah, I wouldn't use CBRN gear for airsoft stuff. When I went airsofting, I normally just have some camo on, not necessarily even matching camo, and goggles. I think that's it. I don't think I even bother with like the mouth protection because I don't feel the need for it. I'm yet to have been really hurt by a BB hitting me there. I think I might have, when I did it, just like literally tied a bit of a scrim net or something around like that, and then just had the goggles. No, Daniel, I won't talk too much about that, but basically, what ended up happening is, you know, I ended up finding out, sadly, it was because of, you know, people maliciously calling the police, not more of a, you know, genuine, legit thing. So I said at the time, you know, I hoped it was all going to stop, but, you know, I might end up having to take legal action or whatever if it carried on. And then people doxed me recently and all the stuff like that. So a couple of days ago, I filed a police report. You know, I'm not going to talk any more about that. And, you know, I'm not going to accuse anybody of anything because obviously everybody is innocent until proven guilty. But, you know, I'd hope some people would probably learn that it's not a good idea to, you know, dox people and all that sort of shit. But, you know. Yeah, I would never wear a gas mask while playing Airsoft. Tropical Piff helmet. Can you not see it behind me? It might. That's because it's gone further down. Well, I mean, obviously it's a retro, but yeah, like I was saying before, I don't want to even have to like pursue legal action against people. But if people are so fucking sad that, you know, they have to, you know, make fake police reports on you, you know, dox your information, keep then making threats with the doxed information, like, I am going to go to the police, because at that point you've just taken it too far. But, you know, you'd hope that a lot of people just realise that's not really acceptable behaviour and do something more productive with their time. But as said, I'm not going to talk any more about it because I don't want to slander anybody else or anything, because, you know, people might even be innocent. You know, I don't know. All it really was basically the police asked me, you know, what sort of stuff had happened. And then, was there people I thought might be responsible? I said yes, gave them the details. And then they said we'd look into it. But, you know, not much might come of it. But obviously, if more does come of it, then it might get escalated further. So, you know, that's the thing with it. You know, I don't really want to say much more than that, because, you know, I don't, because I still get a lot of people saying, can they talk to me about it? And so the thing is, not really, because if it's an open police case, you know, it's best just to let them do their job. But thank you, Haku. But like I said, at the moment, I'm hoping it's just going to be simply a case of people mature up a bit, you know. Yeah, somebody asked me, Frank's bit on earlier, asked me, did I have one? Do videos that interest you mostly finish Cold War. Try and upload them at a regular interval. You know, you'd have to ask me more specialized questions, and I'll see if I can answer you. But yeah, the Yugoslav M1 is nowhere near as good as the M9, though, Oscar, because the problem was the Yugo M1 was made from like very low quality rubber that tends to melt. I suppose that's his choice, isn't it, Ante? But I wouldn't really recommend it. Soviet bluish blackish filter. Are you sure it's a Soviet mask? Because I was trying to think. Polish MS4 filters are like grey filters. I'm trying to think if there was any other Warsaw Pact countries that did masks, you know, filters like the Soviet ones, just different colours. Because I think some like the Romanian filters and that were like darker green, weren't they? I've got some Czechoslovakian camo stuff, Pagan. The you know, the old kind of needle pattern one, whatever they call it, the one that's got the really cool IR pattern under it, which was again technology for the time, because you know it looks like standard camo, but if you look at it under an IR light or like, you know, night vision, it actually has a different camo pattern on it. But so I've got the Czech. I've got like a Czech sort of cap thing, you know, with the flap down ears. That's what I wore airsofting. You've just reminded me. I have the little Czech cap on, like looks a bit like a deer stalker, because you can have it come down over your ears to protect your ears. It ties up under your chin, and then you can just have the goggles with it. Not right now, Henry. I'll do it on a different stream for you if you remind me earlier in the stream. But I don't have any Czech camo trousers, but I have got a couple of Czech coats as well. It just depends really what turns up at decent prices, you know, as surplus now and then. Yeah, my favourite knife for those asking, it probably ends up just being a Swiss Army knife, just because they're mostly, you know, all legal carry and pretty practical. You know, there's definitely better quality masks out there than knives out there than the Victorinoxes. But the thing I like about the Victorinoxes is just they're pretty straightforward and have a lot of functions. So if you were just going to have a knife in your pocket and not really need to think about it until you need to use it for like some sort of utility use, Swiss Army knives are pretty good. You know, like I said, if you were doing specialized things, there are certainly better knives, but Swiss Army knives, the reason I think they're so popular is that they just do a lot of utilities, you know, whether it be bottle openings, screwdrivers, you know, stuff like that. Yeah, that's Radioactive Poo Man, some CBRN. He hasn't been on in a while. When you say World War II British Dickinson Commando knife, do you mean the Fairbairn Sykes? Because that's the only knife I can think of when you say about a British Commando knife. I know there might be other designs, but the let's see if my FS knife is handy in the drawer anyway. There's that Israeli style one somebody was asking about the other day, by the way, with the Star of David on it there. Which is kind of like a K-bar style knife. This is a nice one, but that wasn't the knife you're asking about. It's just, it was handy, and I know somebody asked about it on maybe one of Weapon Collector streams the other day. See ya, Flocky, if you're off. Sorry, Pagan Flocky, yeah. If your battery's running out. But there should be a Fairbairn Sykes in here somewhere. The problem was I ended up tidying this drawer up at one point, which means it's harder to find stuff. It's kind of the you know, counterintuitive thing when you tidy it up, because stuff's stacked more neatly in there. You don't just stick your hand in and immediately go, oh, I've been hit by a knife. But I thought I had the FS knife in here. Ah, I don't. There it is. So is it one of these, or slightly different? But that's an FS knife, as in a Fairbairn Sykes. So was it this one? Or was it a different knife? You can get these in like different colours and that. Some with, you know, like brown handles or whatever, and just regular steel-looking blades. But different handle, does it? I mean, there's different patterns of it, but Fairbairn Sykes were the main British Commando knives because they were basically designed for, you know, going into people's neck like that. They were, you know, purely designed for thrusting into people. So these would be completely impractical bushcraft knives and anything for that. Because I think that's why I was talking about this with he's SAK94 now, isn't he? But Stu, just because, again, the problem is with some of these reproduction Fairbairn Sykes, they're really good reproductions of the original knives. And you can, like I said, you can get some of them, you know, that look exactly like the old ones. They've not even done the more durable, you know, blackening of the blade and that. But I think a lot of people really miss the point with the FS knives, because what they don't get is that the, you know, FS knife was not a bushcraft type knife. You know, it wasn't a utility knife. It was a knife designed for killing people. So, you know, it's not designed for chopping wood and stuff like that, you know. Epic Militaria, okay. Let's go on Epic Militaria. And then say British knife. I'll just type in British knife and see if a load come up. Oh yes, so that's actually quite interesting. I've not seen that one before. The knife was made from a converted SMLE number 4 Mark 1 spike bayonet with an additional tune steel handle. Ah, right, that makes sense. Right, what I can show you then is in this drawer, what I've got is a number 4 Mark 1 spike bayonet. But obviously the bayonet itself, not that Dickinson knife. So yeah, what that is essentially is it's this blade, isn't it? The bayonet blade, the triangular bayonet blade, but on an actual like straight handle, not like this. Yeah, that makes sense. That's quite interesting actually. I didn't know that was a thing. If Weapon Collector's not on, I don't think he is. I'll have to link him to that because that's quite interesting. It's out of stock at the moment, but yeah. So yeah, that is literally the this bayonet just with an improvised handle on it. So again, it's Britain being cheap and finding a way of just making the bayonets have a normal handle rather than one like this. Which one's the SF, Oliver? Yeah, I kind of like it. We're a bit like the Soviets in that regard, but there's so much British stuff where it's, and I think that's when Britain's actually quite practical. When we over-engineer stuff, it's shit. But when, you know, we have that really cheap British stuff of literally, I'll make something, you know, really, really solid and simple. It's like, it's a bit like Soviet engineering. That's when it works well. You know, like those old MD3s and Radiacs, literally get a metal aluminium rectangular box, put an ion chamber in it. Like, oh, this is our radiation detector. Yeah, the Enfield was the handle. A bit impractical for everyday peacetime carry, though. But yeah, it's like when I was showing that Israeli knife, you know, this type of one, like the K-bar style knives. These would be a lot more practical Bowie-type knives, or Bowie knives, however you want to call it. If you wanted a knife for, like, you know, chopping wood, doing utility stuff. Knives like the FS knife are just nice as collectibles, you know, because they were designed as like assassination, you know, just killing knives. The main job of them was killing sentries. But for most people, obviously, you're not going to be going around stabbing people, so it'd be a completely pointless knife to have because you can't do anything with it. Oh, you missed something very interesting, Mike. There was a knife I didn't know about that somebody said about in the chat, which was a British World War II knife. And I thought the person was Gunnermean and Fairbairn Sykes, and it wasn't. And it's where they literally put a normal handle on the spike bayonets, which is really interesting. Right, Bartos, I'm all right. TL29 knife on Epic Militaria. Okay, Epic Militaria. You say TL29? Yeah, TL29. Electrician's penknife. So it's a bit like a Swiss Army knife type thing, or just some sort of penknife. Is it just a really good sharp blade? That might be quite good. But yeah, let me link Mike to that bayonet you're on about. Sort of bayonet, because obviously it's just a converted bayonet, isn't it? They've actually got quite a lot of different bayonets on here, haven't they? I assume a lot of them are repros, but... sadly, no SLR bayonets. Right. Dickinson Commando knife. Here you go, Mike. Have a look at that. Made anything good in the shed? Yeah, thank you, Thomas Watson. Don't forget to like the stream because it does help share it. We're actually at quite a good number tonight, 79 views, 79 likes, which, no, nor had I, but yeah, what it is, and it's quite obvious as soon as you see it, and they say, is literally they've got the old spike bayonet, like the really cheap pig stick bayonets, that replaced, the proper sword-type knife bayonets, and just put an actual kind of handle on it. Rather than it being, the just like the bit where the spike would attach to the rifle. So it's actually quite a clever design. It's typical, like we're saying, British cheapness, isn't it? Where you... that's cool, Mike. If that's what you want to do, Ante, I won't stop you. But personally, unless you're a reenactor, I would find it very, very strange to be buying German SS uniform. But hello, Vladimir. Are you okay? What was it that Trump said recently? Operation Warp Speed, was it? His name for making a corona vaccine or something. I was like, oh, he comes up with the best names. That's right, Vladimir. It was just more trying to give advice for smaller channels if they had any questions. Really. So it's been more just random, although a lot of it ends up being, can I see something, can I see that, rather than people saying I do videos on this sort of thing, which is what I was hoping it would have been. But... that's true, Oliver. You don't, do you? You just need to tie a bit of cloth around your face or whatever. If you can stream on your channel, Secure Mindset, because I think YouTube has limitations on how you can do it now, doesn't it? Like you need a certain amount of subs or whatever. Is it 1,000 subs and everything else? But just try and get the lighting all right so it doesn't look awful. I mean, the webcam I've got now is actually a lot better. My old webcam was awful. Like you couldn't really do it with room lighting very well. It was really grainy. But this one, I can just have the ceiling light on, a bulb here that's not the brightest in the world, and it doesn't look too bad. But main thing I would say is get a good microphone. I ended up getting a Blue Snowball, but I'd say really for streaming, you probably want to get a decent microphone. Otherwise, it's just going to sound awful for everybody listening to the stream. No, Daniel, I don't. What was that? Was Meta Cafe an old video website? I know there was lots, wasn't there, back in the day? But I can't remember the names of a lot of them. I can only remember Newgrounds was like for like Flash animations. Yeah. Prince Harry did dress up as a Nazi. But I don't think Prince Harry is a Nazi, you know. It's just he did a joke, you know, that I don't think a lot of people found funny. That's good then. No, normally for YouTube, I just literally use YouTube's own thing, where you just connect your webcam and your microphone to your PC. And then when you start a stream using YouTube, it lets you pick your webcam from a list of like connected devices, choose your microphone, so by default it finds the right one. And then you can just go off and, you know, go. I've used OBS before, but I've noticed if you stream directly through YouTube, you get a lot less video lag, because I'm assuming because there's no delay of it going to the software and then going to YouTube, like through an encoder or whatever. So personally, I just like doing it through YouTube. I find it's got the least sort of problems. Yeah, I think like if I did that Halon, if I had a capture card, it would look a lot nicer actually than the webcam, because obviously I've got that Canon camcorder that can do 4K. But you know, I find the webcam's convenient because it just sits on top of my screen, and then what I do is just when I'm not streaming, I just pull the cable out. You know, that way nobody, I guess, can spy on you through your webcam. I mean, I take like antivirus stuff fairly seriously, but you know, I'd never want my mic or my webcam plugged in. Really, in all honesty, when I'm not actually, you know, doing a stream. You know, you don't want people to know what you get up to when you're not streaming. I know about there's Istvan, there's Allegro.pl, isn't there, which is like a Polish one. I know there is a lot of regional ones. The main issue is finding people that necessarily post to you. Yeah, I know about some of those sort of things, Bolding Telsky. We have Bargain Hunt here. Bargain Hunt I quite enjoy, although I liked it a lot more when, what's his name, Tim Wonnacott was actually the person presenting it. So I think the BBC kicked him out for apparently bullying people when they like purged Jeremy Clarkson, a load of other people. But there's Antiques Roadshow as well. But Bargain Hunt used to be one I used to watch, because a lot of the time when I used to work at Argos, I always would start at a time where an episode of Bargain Hunt would just be finishing at the time I'd need to leave to go get the bus, you know, for doing like an afternoon and evening shift. So it meant what I could do was, you know, watch an episode of Bargain Hunt while I just sat, you know, ready to go to work, while drinking a coffee or a cup of tea or something. And Bargain Hunt's good because sometimes you get military surplus on there. I didn't even see what they said. I don't know if I even saw their comment. No, I didn't. Yeah, very fast, Daniel. That's the interesting thing with mobs. If a mob gets somebody really fast, their comments don't even show up for me, because I've noticed sometimes on Weapon Collectors streams, if I manage to get somebody really quickly, you can't see their comment either. Sadly, I can't at the moment secure mine set. I want to be volunteering, but I've not heard anything back from the Blue Cross yet. Because what the Blue Cross did is when the government in the UK did the thing about only essential workers going in, you know, so the point was it was literally meant to be only like people going into work if they worked in hospitals, or like doctors or people in supermarkets, you know, very basic infrastructure jobs. The Blue Cross said basically some of their paid staff would still go in, but a lot of animals would go into foster and everything, and they didn't want volunteers going in, you know, just to lower the transmission risks. But now the government started easing stuff off. Hopefully the Blue Cross will get back to us all in about a week or two and start saying, you know, you can go come back into volunteer. Because I can't go to work at the moment, you know, I was hoping originally I could just volunteer more, but I can't because, you know, even places volunteering like, no, we don't want staff in because of the contagion risk. I have no idea what that is, Peppy the Frog. I assume it's something that's German, is it? Versindip, I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's good, Mike. I just wish maybe there was a more easy way of doing it. What would be good is if there's a comment that gets held for review, if mods could see it for like 10 seconds before I can. That way, if mods are really on the ball, if somebody's like trying to dox me again, it's not even going to distract me. Not very well, Henry. There's a piano there. just in case you don't believe me. See, there's a piano, piano. Yeah, I used to play. I was never graded on piano, but when I was doing like, like school stuff, I did music GCSE, with both composing and playing, and I passed that all right. I think it was a B I got in the end, like A or A star for composing, and then B for playing. Ended up being, I think, like a high B when I did the rest of the B. But it's just after I didn't really need to play the piano more for like graded type stuff, I just kind of didn't end up doing it as much, which is a bit of a shame, It's one of those things where I keep saying I should get into it, but I don't know if you saw there, the piano stall is covered by decimeter pens at the moment. Sadly not, Stuart. I love dogs, but I don't have one myself. I can never grow a very good one varying red beard, and a gas mask wouldn't work if I have a beard, so I have to keep even the stubble shaved off. I would say eBay, Jaden, but again, getting an S10 for a good price at the moment isn't going to happen, is it really? Yeah, I've got, 4 lava lamps on there? The best one's that green Mathmos one, and then there's a blue one, a red one, and one that's like a rainbow one, but technically it's just a glass that's multicolored. There's also, it's not on there at the moment, but I've got it somewhere. There's one where it's like not a lava lamp, but, one of those ones where it has got a pump in it and a light, that makes sort of glittery stuff move around in it. But yeah, the Mathmos ones are the best ones. They're like the really old British ones, but they still make lava lamps. They're more expensive than the others, but the wax warms up way faster in them, even with like the same wattage bulb in, and moves a lot better. You already just asked me that, Stuart. I said no. I love dogs, but I don't have one. My mate's got dogs, but I haven't seen them in ages, which is sad because, I love his dogs and they love me, but not in a creepy way. I mean, just, giving a dog cuddles and them, climbing on you and licking you kind of way. Not, not a bestiality way. I don't know why I had to suggest that, but I just thought if I said I love dogs. There was, saying that, there's an advert at the moment where I really don't like how they've worded it. It's an advert, I think, for Childline. Don't get me wrong, Childline's a really good charity. It's about protecting, like, cruelty and sexual abuse to children and stuff like that, right? But part of the advert ends by saying, find out or something how Childline can help you get involved with children or something. I just don't like the way they worded it. I've got a plasma globe in the attic somewhere. I need to do a video on it on my Crux tube, because if you find plasma tubes interesting, you will find Crux tubes amazing. And Crux tubes are really interesting because I want to do a video using one to go over the original Rontgen experiment where he discovered X-rays. No, it wasn't even get closer to children. It was saying something like, how can you get involved with children? I thought they could have worded that way better, Yeah, I know the problem, Richard, you mean with that, because although I've not really tried recording much piano stuff on YouTube, I do know of the piano that certain notes reverberate stuff. There's a shelf in the room somewhere, one of the shelves over there, and if I hit a certain note on the piano, it does always cause that shelf to reverberate. I know that's a thing, obviously, but because in our school music rooms, we used to have like music stands that were stacked up, and there's always certain notes on the piano that would make those vibrate. Musical resonance is a really interesting thing that could go into the creepy kind of discussions we've had before if people didn't understand it. But yeah, I can understand why low quality microphones or whatever would get messed up by organs and pianos hitting certain notes, because they actually, it's like sometimes you try and listen to music if you're listening to on not great speakers. Mike will know this one if he's still on and in chat actively. I think he is. On the Dune soundtrack, Mike, there's the Brian Eno track called Prophecy, or the Prophecy theme. When I used to be in my Golf, if ever I played the Prophecy theme on there, for whatever reason, that would cause the speakers just to go like, just because some of like the sort of synth groan noises or drone noises in the track were actually just the right pitch to make the speakers just basically vibrate until you couldn't hear anything. But yeah, weirdly, the Dacia. And when I was doxxed the other day, by the way, people go, Liam drives a Dacia Sandero. It's like, no shit, I've shown it in a video, haven't I? But anyway, the Dacia actually weirdly has really good speakers in it for, a budget car. Like, Dacia speakers, I really can't fault them. I've found very, very little that I can play in there, at high volume, and the speakers don't fuck up, which is amazing. No, I've never really found a lockpicking all that interesting. Well, it's interesting, but I've just never tried it, I think Mike, Weapon Collector, might have done some lockpicking videos. My microphone, Sean, is a blue snowball. I'll see if the cable's long enough that I can hold it up and you can see it on the webcam. It might not be. Right, there we go. That's the blue snowball. It's not really amazing, but, you know, it is what it is. It was just basically a blue snowball. It was like a £50 sort of, you know, microphone. And for that price, they're actually pretty good. You know, there's definitely better microphones out there, but the blue snowball I like just because it just sits on my desk on a tripod, you know, and doesn't cause any problems. It does now. I've moved it about and all the wires are... Oh, that's very awkward now. Come on, in you go. Who's that? Sorry, Jammy Dodgers? Did you recommend a channel there? I didn't see a channel you recommended, sorry. Right, so you want me, Anti, just to go on Epic Militaria, search knife, and tell you if there's any I think look cool. What sort of knife do you want? One for like bushcraft stuff, or just being a cool knife? Because obviously that's two different things, really. Because obviously bushcraft knives are designed to be quite robust in terms of like battening wood and stuff, whereas some knives aren't for that. So, I'll see what you say you want in a knife. See your secure mindset. No, Thomas, not normally. Now and again, I'll do a video where it's mostly images, and I'll use the snowball for that. But if ever I'm using a camera, I just use my camera's microphone because I've got a really good Canon camcorder now. Because quite a few people that donated like a year or so ago said, could I use their donation money towards a new camcorder? I said, yeah, of course. If people are donating, you know, I'll happily use the money towards something. So I ended up getting a really overkill Canon camcorder because I thought rather than going for a camcorder that's a bit better than what I've got, I'll go for like a professional grade camcorder. And although that Canon one, again, can, you know, accept mics that you can pin to your, you know, like clothes and that, it's inbuilt like two microphones to do proper stereo is very good in it. So, you know, it's very much directional as well. So if you've got that camcorder and you're in front of it, it really does pick up the audio well. I'll show it you quickly. But if you just want a knife that's a good knife, did you say about that electrician's knife? If it wasn't you, somebody said this was good, and I think it does look good, actually, and it's cheap. If not, the one I really like the look of on here is probably this one, because it looks quite similar to the K-bar. Out of all the knives, I think this is the one I like the most on it. Thank you, Daniel. I will do. I'm on my last can of Abbott Ale tonight, but there's like probably 30 Fosters in the fridge. But you know, Fosters are meh, aren't they? They're very watery, but they're good enough to drink. I suppose the nice thing with Fosters is you're not going to get very hungover on them because they're hydrating you at the same time they have a bit of alcohol in. 26, Henry. You can work that out from my username, actually. No, I've seen a video a bit like that, some CBRN, where a guy waves an AK out the window, like somewhere in Chechnya or something. Like there's a guy tailgating him, so then the passenger just gets an AK and waves it out the window at him. My favourite crossbow out of all the ones I own is probably, where I can't really get it easily now, but probably the Jando Chasewind one, whatever it is, where I've now put a different scope on it, because that's a very, very good £150 crossbow, but not like, you know, one of the stupidly, you know, expensive brands. I'd be very careful about doing a drunk stream, Patty, although I do streams where I've sometimes had a bit too much to drink. You know, I don't want to do a really drunk stream where I say something, you know, bad or anything like that. Yeah, I've got a Horizon Redback, as Mike says. I've got two Redbacks because I bought one and I was one of the first people that did a YouTube video on them. And it was mostly just because I had a few people in the comments saying, could I get a Redback? And then when I got the Redback, I think Tumbo probably got it around a similar time as I did. That's like how we both knew about them. Horizon, because I'd done a video on the Redback, so they were going to send me a more expensive model, you know, if I wanted to review that as well. You know, like I could say it was good or bad. You know, it wasn't one of those reviews. So I don't like doing reviews if somebody's like, "Oh, you have to say it's good," because then it's like, kind of shilling, isn't it? But yeah, they sent me the more expensive one. And it was all right, but I just kind of preferred the cheaper red back with the iron sights. In all honesty, the red dot's useful, but it's not. Red dots I don't find are all that amazing on crossbows. But celebratory end of lockdown stream. Yeah. Although if lockdown's ending, then I need to be sober for going back to work, don't I? Where at the moment I've got an excuse to drink more because there's literally nothing to do every day. It's getting a bit political, but American healthcare, I think, is definitely one of the things that needs to be improved about the US, just because, in general, having more socialized healthcare is a very good thing. Just because you want people to have a stake in your country where, people, if they need medical stuff, can get it, rather than needing all the insurance beforehand or then being exempt from certain insurances because they have an underlying condition. That's a very strange question, Jacko. But do you know I have something called ulcerative colitis? And ulcerative colitis is basically a bleeding, horrible stomach condition caused by your own immune system attacking your colon. So now I've told you I have ulcerative colitis, you might be able to work out that that's not all that uncommon for me, unfortunately. Yeah, I watched a really interesting thing, Gretchen, yesterday on the really crazy, and it's not just in the US, but it was more of an example of the US, the crazy pharmaceutical industry with all about, big pharma companies making all the really addictive painkillers and that, and then doing all the stuff to claim that, they never knew that people could get addicted, even though they were telling doctors, oh no, there's only a 1% or less chance that somebody will become addicted to what's the really famous one in America everybody takes that's had all the legal battles against it? OxyContin, Oxy. Even though Oxy, of course, is literally heroin strength, opioids. And opioids and opiates are literally, chemically nearly all the same thing. There's very little difference between codeine and heroin if you actually look at them on a chemical level. So, when you've got something that has roughly the same pain-killing strength as morphine or heroin, of course people are going to get fucking addicted to it because it's just going to completely overload the pleasure receptors in the brain. I've watched some of the old Dad's Army things, Steve, but I've never really got into it. As you can see, I need to open my LOLO box set and start binge watching that at some point, but LOLO was one of my favourite old one of those sort of series. Yeah, my least favourite one, I would say, is the £50 pistol crossbow that was just really cheaply made and kind of dangerous to the users. No, this isn't a video about drugs, just people brought up drugs recently. Not last weekend. We're going to have a takeaway tomorrow, probably, weirdly. But at the moment, we're having a takeaway every week or 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, that's the problem, Gretchen, is the thing is opioid painkillers, when used responsibly, can be really good things. Because I don't think it's really sensible to say, some sort of painkillers are either fantastic or completely evil. But the issue is you have to be very, very careful prescribing opioid painkillers for people. Because supposedly the big issues end up being when somebody's got a temporary sports injury that will be healed in 2 or 3 months. A doctor gives them really strong opioid painkillers, and then once that 3 months is up, even if their injury is healed, they're not going to be off those opioids because they can't go back to feeling normal anymore. Good morning, says Vic. Yeah, if it's in good condition, go for it, Harris. I probably missed your previous comment, Oliver, there. He says, I agree. Basically, if you have socialism for healthcare, infrastructure, food, and maybe even housing to a degree, it will boost the capitalism private sector much more. He says, I don't mean giving poor people caviar, obviously, or paying for plastic surgery. Yeah, that's the thing. I think if you have socialized, it shouldn't cover everything, because then people don't have an incentive to work, really. But if you have lots of the very basic things in society covered, so everybody is healthier and more productive as a result of very basic socialist things, then that kind of means people are going to be more productive and actually have an investment in the country. But I think, yeah, if you've got a situation where people will literally, can't see a doctor, or they're going to get in debt for seeing a doctor for something potentially quite serious, that's not a good thing in a first world country. Keep doing the content you do. Make sure it's focused. Try and upload on a regular schedule. Involve your subscribers as much as possible. TM, HOF. That's all I can really suggest to you. You know, it's very generic advice, but I think it does work. I'll be off in a minute, though. It's been a really good stream tonight. Oh, yeah, I was going to show you, Thomas. Sorry. Let me go get it. It's on its tripod. I keep it on the tripod, so there's no risk of it getting knocked around. So this is it. The Canon Leggera HFG50. I never film with it in HFG50. Yeah, I never film with it in 4K, even though it does 4K, just because I find videos render and edit much better in 1080p without, like, you know, lagging or freezing the editing software. But this is a very good camcorder if you want one for like low light filming and, you know, like really good image stabilization and everything. And like I said, very good inbuilt microphone, because it's, I don't know if you can see it there, it's got 1 and 2 microphones on each side of the front. That's right, Thomas. As I said, it's a pretty expensive camcorder, but it's well worth it if you end up wanting to do a lot of videos. But yeah, I got that because I was going to go for a cheaper model when I upgraded, but then I had quite a lot of donations, and because people said, could I get a good camcorder, I thought I can't really screw over my donators and say, right, I'll buy the cheapest, like, slight improvement one possible and pocket all your money. I was like, no, I'll get a really good camcorder then. Sniper crossbows, I don't think that's really a thing, is it? But if you mean, I've got one compound crossbow with a scope on it. So obviously, a heavyweight compound crossbow with a scope is going to be quite long range, but sniper crossbow and assault crossbow and all those terms very much sound like the, you know, the media anti-crossbow stuff. You know, really a crossbow is just a utility, you know, sports thing that shoots a bolt down a range. I don't know if I've got the PMG handy, I'm afraid. I can't see it behind me, obviously. It's probably put away somewhere. So sadly, I can't. Cheers, Vladimir. The thing is, though, it's like I said, I'm going to be totally honest with people. If they donate money and say, get this, get that with it, I will do. The only problem is, of course, if somebody donates maybe £5 and says, could I get a £200 gas mask with it, then that might not, you know, work out, just because, but, you know, I always like to be open about what I end up buying for the channel, you know, because I always do videos on it anyway, but it was like one point as well when I ended up getting that blue snowball and the better webcam, just because lots of people on the streams are, you know, giving super chats and then saying, could I get better resources for making videos? No, the closest I can speak to another language, Peppy the Frog, is German, and mein Deutsch ist nicht gut. Sprechen Sie English, danke? So there you go. Yeah, like I said, I understand what you mean by a sniper crossbow, but I just don't really think that's a thing, in all honesty, you know. Because again, you could get a really high draw weight compound crossbow, you know, very precisely machined, but you know, if you're comparing it to a sniper rifle, a crossbow bolt is just never going to go as far, really, as unless you're shooting down a mountain or something, as you know, like a bullet is, just because of there's only so much you can do with a mechanical kind of thing that shoots a bolt. Because a lot of it's down to bow span as well, which is why longbows. Richard said there has been a crossbow that shoots a load of steel BBs at once, but yeah, like Richard probably told us, a longbow. A lot of what makes a bow shoot far is bow span. So that's why longbows are really good for shooting long distance, because they're really tall bows and the string can get pulled back really far. Crossbows kind of aren't, because crossbows are designed to have kind of a bow span that's about probably that big. Obviously, pistol crossbows are smaller bow spans. You can get some crossbows with bigger bow spans. But really how a crossbow works is, you know, a bow span of a certain size, and then the stiffer the bow is to pull back, the more draw weight, like the more velocity you get. It's very diminishing returns. That's the PIF helmet, which I was showing a bit earlier. I don't think they're mutually exclusive, Oliver. Like I've said before, when people ask me about my political ideology, I'm pretty much on the fence with a lot of things, because I think if you go too far down one side, you know, Like I said, I think you can have a capitalist country where there's just some taxes on certain goods which pay for socialized things. I don't think that's an extreme idea, really. You know, so especially if you do it via sin tax type things like we do in the UK, although a lot of the money doesn't go to where it's meant to go. So, you know, like where they put, if you put more tax on alcohol and cigarettes, that goes towards your health service. Because, you know, the idea is that if you're using products that are more likely to put you at lower, more health risks, the idea is that you're paying into a health service at the same time. Which recurve crossbow was that, Vladimir? Because I've got a few recurves, but although they're recurve crossbows, they're not massively, like recurve limbs. They're just ones that are more shaped like that, really. I mean, you don't want to be inhaling chromium, Chris from HR, but when people talk about chromium poisoning, they're talking about being exposed to massive amounts of it, not the small amounts you'd get in a filter. There has been a lot of studies done if you want to read through them, but most of the studies basically come to the conclusion that you'd have to be huffing chromium-filled filters non-stop to ever run into any issues with it. Yeah, exactly, Steve. That's the issue, isn't it? That you can have something that's fine on paper, a bit like communism, but the issue is the money doesn't go where it's meant to due to corruption or just people thinking, oh, it would be better placed here, and then it just gets wasted or squandered. Woodrow Wilson is a pretty old president, isn't he? I don't even know how old Woodrow Wilson would have been, but I know he's not a modern president. A bit like President Taft or somebody. Anyway, I'll be off now. Thanks, everybody. It's been a good stream. Hope you all liked it. I'll be on Weapon Collector's Twitch thing tonight if he's on at 10. Let me have a quick look, Richard, and then I'll be off. That's the YouTube link. Oh, I can't leave, can I? Ooh, that's close. Yeah, because if I click that, it just like gets the stream stuck open. Because I've clicked a link. You can't click links on streams anymore. Right, see you all. Goodbye. If anybody's asking a question now, sorry, too late. Save it for the next stream. Right, goodbye. Bye, 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 bye.